All right, because we always have to have the replay. So welcome everyone to IV Therapy Bootcamp. This really is IV Therapy Bootcamp. This is the mini edition. So that is not the full IV Therapy Bootcamp. But what I am doing is I am taking this part of my bootcamp and taking it completely out. I am taking this information and making it completely, and it's not lacking. It's great information. It was a part of my paid bootcamp. But what I'm doing is taking this out because honestly, this is information that I want everyone to have before I ever see you in my full paid IV Therapy Bootcamp. So those of you who are here, those of you who are registered, no one has ever made this type of information available outside of a paid course, especially for 3 nights straight. So and I know it's probably like, is she crazy? Like, is she really, or is she just going to give us crap? No, I'm answering your questions. I'm giving you the real deal. I'm real information, again, that was previously paid. And the reason is because, again, I'm changing my bootcamp to update it, and the information is a lot as it is. So I have to take something out. So with me adding on and editing and changing my bootcamp and the content in it to more so reflect 2023 and what we're dealing with setting this business up in 2023, now I am taking this part of it and making it available everywhere. But this will be recorded and you will later have access to replays, because again, I want this to be kind of a prerequisite. So no one will show up to boot camp any longer and get this information. You will already have it for free. So that's kind of what I'm doing there and the why. And I'm excited. And of course, I definitely also hope to see some of you in bootcamp as well. But we'll talk about that later, right? All right. So here's the agenda for the next 3 nights. I hope you all can hang in there with me because, again, this is real information in a format that these are the slides that I pull up in my paid bootcamp, okay? And those of you who have been, you'll recognize them. So tonight, we're going to do general and operational foundation, okay? That's night 1 tonight. Tomorrow night, we'll talk about legal foundation, and we'll also go into medical director, good faith exams, right? Those are very important. And then on night 3, we'll do marketing and kind of a review, wrap up. And every single night, we will have Q&A. So if you can't be here one night, the recording will be available at a later date. I want you to register, one, because that helps me to be able to email you and give you updates, and then also give you the updates on when the recordings will be available. Okay, so that is what we're doing. So I always like to do a quick intro of myself. I saw lots and lots and lots of new, had not probably only maybe in my group or rolled across my Instagram, but you probably are like, who the heck is this person? And is she crazy giving this away for free? No, I'm not crazy, but I am passionate. And I'm also just seeing so many nurses already wanting to give up. Is really, I want to encourage you, and I want you to know that this business is still possible. Some people haven't even started. You may have only considered it, but I want to, again, encourage you and help you to see, honestly, this is what you need to know. Yes, this is possible, but yes, there are some things that you need to consider and be aware of and that you should have as part of your foundation. So I'm formally Dr. Ranika Stewart. I am informally, my Facebook page is Ranika Stewart, Concierge NP. My Facebook page is pretty open. You can be my friend, so don't feel free to friend request me or follow me. But Ranika Stewart, Concierge NP on Facebook. As far as the Concierge Nurse Network, there is a Facebook group, there's an Instagram page, and there's also a TikTok page. So I was actually considering going live on some other places, but I decided for tonight, this is just going to be us. We're not going to be live anywhere else, especially if you registered and showed up. I wanted you to just kind of you have me all to yourselves, okay, right here. That may be the case every night. So with that said, yes, someone said, thank you for your passion. It is a very hard road. I'm definitely not here to say it's easy, but it's still a worth it road. So I started my business in 2020. I always like to say that I started at a very difficult time, of course, but I also started at a time where people were looking for solutions, and that has only intensified. People were looking for ways to be proactive. I myself was looking for what else can be done. You know, we had this COVID situation, we have the pandemic, we're all freaked out, all our D3 levels are low. A lot of us are inflamed and unhealthy, and not because we don't, for lack of trying, but just the nature of our diet, just the nature of our environment, right? So what can we do before we are at risk or we have a weakened immune system? What can we do to be proactive with our wellness? How can we not get to the point of taking a cup full? A lot of us, we're nurses, we work in the hospital, we do our med pass, and we hand our patient over a cup full of pills. What can we do to avoid that, right? What can we do to be more proactive about health and wellness? What can we do? I call it the other side of medicine. And I, for one, love this side of medicine. So I just started searching for answers. And for me, COVID really, I knew that this was in me. I had this idea. I wondered if I could possibly do it, if I could own my business. Well, COVID happened, and we all know the world stopped. Everything changed, and people were looking for answers. People were looking for education. People were looking for information. People were looking for ways to be proactive in their health. People are looking for more client-centered, more focused on them and their needs, more personalized healthcare, actually, because traditional healthcare, we know it is sick care, but wellness and well care. Okay, so COVID really changed so much. And I started then, and I would never, even if I had to do it again, I would go even harder. Like, I went hard, but I would go even harder because I did get a little intimidated by the fact that we were dealing with a pandemic. But that's the time when everyone else is kind of freaking out, when everyone's kind of going into hiding. This is an opportunity for us as nurses to really show up. And I'm seeing that now. There are some things changing in the IV therapy world. There are regulations changing. There are more regulations coming. That will be the case because nurses are the majority owners of IV therapy clinics. So yes, we can expect some backlash and some things, right? But what I'm seeing is people get a little scared. Now, I won't call it scared. Should you be informed? Should you be educated? Should you be handling this like the medical procedure that it is? Absolutely. But I hate to see nurses that we have so much potential and we truly are trained to be entrepreneurs. They just didn't tell us that they were training us to be entrepreneurs. They really wanted us to only work at bedside or work for someone. But I see so many nurses seeing things change, and they're just doing exactly like they're going into hiding. They're I just saw it today. I'm shutting my IV therapy down. Now, if you have other services and maybe that's not your most profitable, that's an understandable business decision. But out of fear, or just because regulations are changing, or just because nothing's happened in most states, or just because they could change later, or just because I still see it when everyone else is hiding or kind of freaking out. It's an opportunity for those of us who will take that calculated, because we should always be calculating and have the information and have the facts. But done correctly, this is still doable. This can still be profitable. And it definitely is a foundation. IV therapy alone, I wouldn't recommend. But IV therapy to start and then to scale and add other services, absolutely, it's still doable. Are there some states where it may be more of an uphill climb? Yes. I didn't so far see any in the comments, but there are a couple of places that have recently kind of taken a position on IV therapy mixing and such. But again, if you're in one of those states, that's one thing. But for everybody across the US to freak out and just say IV therapy, that just tells me that there's still an opportunity. Patients, clients, consumers are still looking for these solutions to their wellness and their healthcare. So when everyone else is running and hiding, who's going to step up and be there? Just like, even though a lot of us want to get away from the bedside, a lot of us were burnt out, we're frustrated, we need something else, and it's nice to have this other side of medicine where we focus on wellness and prevention versus constant sick and pills, right? But yes, there are still nurses needed at the bedside. Absolutely. So us, growing and evolving into nurse entrepreneurs also creates another opportunity for that nurse coming out of school who is ready to go and step into the bedside and get that experience, right? So it's a cycle, it's a continuum. Everyone's not going to be ready for entrepreneurship, but if you are, it is still doable. And yes, IV therapy is still a great option. Yes, is it getting a lot of attention? Is it getting a lot of crackdowns or more regulations? Most likely because it's mostly nurses owning the business. And honestly and truly, no laws, were really written for nurse entrepreneurship. So even some of the regulations we see, some of the laws on how a physician provides collaboration and supervision, even those regulations are written for nurse practitioners. And even then, they're still not written for nurse entrepreneurship. They were written for nurse practitioners working in, with, under, because they say that a lot, under a physician. So we really are trailblazers, and there's a huge opportunity here. That opportunity is still here and it still exists. And I hope, like every person here, some of you may listen to this presentation and kind of freak out. That's okay. It may not be for you right now, but at least I want you to have the facts. And then if you are ready to move forward, I would love to guide you and really show you that simplicity can really be, starting simply, but compliantly is feasible, and you can really build and scale from that. So I do have great success stories out there of nurses who have came through my boot camp, and they are rocking it. Okay. Like great success stories. So if you never heard of me, again, Dr. Rynika Stewart, nurse practitioner living in Tampa from Tennessee. I've been in Tampa since 2016. My clinic is adaptive wellness and recovery. IV therapy and post-op care is how I started. Now we have our IV therapy post-op concierge one part of my clinic, and the other part is IV therapy, hormones, weight loss, red light therapy, so wellness services. So IV therapy is like the gateway for a lot of nurses. We may start with that, but most all of us either go med spa. In my case, I went wellness recovery and for my clinic, and then I also still merge in IV therapy for my post-op concierge clients. So that's a bit about me. Maybe something random about me, and I posted this in the Concierge Nurse Network Facebook group, is that my socks really match. I'm very passionate, and I have lots of areas of nursing and wellness that I love. I really love functional medicine. So IV therapy just fits, and it's something that I really love for that reason. But I also love really one-on-one care. So that's where the concierge part of my business comes in. So my business is a lot like me in that there's multiple things I love and multiple things that I kind of split myself between. And then of course, the next thing that I love outside of my business and my clinic is other nurses. Nurses, y'all are my people. I love y'all. So I love other nurses. I'm actually I'm the queen of introverts. I'm very quiet. I'm very to myself. I love to read. I love to do quiet activities when I'm not doing this, right? So people are very surprised to learn that, but it's true. But this is what energizes me. I love other nurses, and because I saw what was possible, I'm on a warpath, a rampage. I'm on a mission to share it and really still continue to encourage and motivate, empower other nurses. So that's the reason for the Concierge Nurse Network. It just kind of came to be one day, and hopefully my goal is to continue to grow it, increase the resources and the community. It's definitely meant to be a community. So with that said, y'all probably have had plenty of time to read this slide, but yes, there's an opportunity here, and there's opportunities again. A lot of the times recession, fear, other people kind of walking away or freaking out is a great opportunity for those of us who are okay with researching and arming ourselves and then taking that calculated risk, right? So there's an opportunity for us as nurses to step forward and support proactive wellness strategies rather than reactive disease treatment and management. And that's healthcare. That is the future of healthcare. Like I always say, concierge nursing is the future too, but the future is now. We're healthcare consumers as well. We're tired of that. We're tired of that story. And that doesn't take away from modern medicine and Western medicine that is needed and has its place. But there's also the importance of not just that we live to a certain age, or, we lived till 90, but what about our quality of life? Quality of life is so important. Yes, it's great to live, but we still want to have a good quality of life. And being proactive and focusing on wellness can actually change or even prevent issues with quality of life later. Okay, so that's why it's important to me. Another reason that this is important to me, IV therapy, functional medicine, wellness, because of course, like anyone, I have my own health struggles and I have to practice what I preach and focus on it for myself as well. But my husband, he's a disabled vet. He's retired from the Army, 20 years of service. And what comes with that? lots of issues, right? So chronic pain, PTSD, like just the TBI, traumatic brain injury. There's different things that veterans deal with. And I really, really learned that being around my husband, other veterans, going with him to the VA. And I realized that even then they kind of just hand them pills and hand them Band-Aids. And so I really, really got into this part of medicine, the other side of medicine too, because I really wanted to be able to help my husband and other veterans or other people like him. So we all are going to have our why and our what and why we do things. And you really, sometimes when you're frustrated, when you're tired, being a business owner is not easy. You have to go back to what is fueling you, what is driving you, what is your mission, what is your vision, okay? So mission and vision, that definitely should be a part of your business foundation, right? So let's start here. Business foundation. We are starting from the beginning. Let me see. Awesome, awesome. Somebody said, loving this. Next in person is in February. Let's see. Wellness is amazing. Let's see. I'm already looking. Let's see, Samantha. I'm going to come back to that, okay? I'm going to come back. But when I open the Q&A, I'll scroll back through and start answering questions. So yeah, you definitely feel free to type them in the comments. So let's start at the very beginning. You have an idea. You wonder if you can do this. The answer is yes, you can. So where the heck do you start? Well, this is not in a certain order, okay? But definitely business plan, even though that's on the right. Business plan. So I have templates for that. Business plan, start with literally what you want to offer, what your goal is, who is your target client. There's templates all over line for that. I have one inside of the Concierge Nurse Network Facebook group, but it's something super basic. What is the plan? What do you want to offer? Who do you want to serve? What is your mission? What is your vision? What services? What price points? What is offered in your market? What other businesses exist? Now, don't get caught up in their pricing, because there is way more to pricing than just the price you see. And that will be the same for your business, but just getting a general idea. And honestly, how familiar are people in your community with IV therapy? Because if it's one of those things that people are familiar with, that's even better. And if it's not, that's still a great opportunity for you to be the person who shows up and establish yourself as a leader and provide that education. So we'll talk about that on the marketing foundation day, but start with the business plan. Don't skip this part. Everybody wants to get to the website, and you want to get to the beautiful business collateral, the cards, the brochures, but don't skip out on the plan. I always say that as you're building your business, yes, you're going to revisit that plan. You're going to possibly pivot your business plans. I've done that multiple times. I started off offering COVID testing. I started off offering memberships. I started off offering DOT, urine drug screens. I just was like, I'm offering everything, because what if one thing doesn't work out, right? Side note, my business did better when I honed it in, okay? So don't be afraid to really pick a niche and stick with it for a while, because it makes it easier for your marketing and setting up your legal. So have that plan, okay? All right, let's go back to the left side. Business name. It should reflect what you offer. So mine is adaptive wellness. Now, initially adaptive because it had an IV in it, and I was doing IVs, right? And my business name was Adaptive Wellness. But I also realized that kind of pointed to wellness. One of my main focuses within my business is recovery. So now it is Adaptive Wellness and Recovery is what I use for all my social media, right? So just consider, wellness. For IV therapy businesses, hydration and wellness. Usually they'll have wellness, or even the name will reflect that you offer IV therapy. Some people will have IV in the name, but it's nice when your business name just tells exactly what is there. Wellness can be very vague in general. Be careful in some states that you should not use med spa or medical this or medical in the name of your business. That's not every state, but I know Texas is one that can be tricky. So just consider that also with your business name. Try to make it can be general, especially depending on what you plan to offer, but really make it to where your name really communicates what you want to communicate. So we're talking, now we're talking a little bit on branding, but what do you want people to know? So adaptive, I like the meaning of that word, right? Adaptive, resilience, being able to change, being able to adapt to your environment. So I loved adaptive for my business name. Plus it had that IVN at the end, and I dropped the E on the word adaptive. So just that's how I was thinking. And that I had a few, but that's the one I stuck with. But the second, even if you're not sure, if you get a name and you really like it, go ahead and secure that domain. So the domain is yourbusinessname.com. How can you secure a domain? You can go to GoDaddy. I go to Google. I just straight up use Google domains. Okay. Super simple. I have so many domains under Google domains that I have purchased or pay for. So go to Google and you can literally type it in, the domain that you're interested in, and then Google will tell you if it's available. Always go for the .com version. You may see .net, .org, or some other different plays, but I say go for the .com. If it's not available, possibly consider another name. You do want your name to be unique. You possibly want your name to be able to be trademarked. So this is not something to rush. Take your time. And yes, could you rebrand? Could you rename? Absolutely. But it's expensive. Rebranding is expensive. I need to rebrand a little bit right now as far as separating my clinic from my concierge, right? So, it's great to get it right the first time, if possible. Okay. So getting your domain. And then from there, this ain't on this slide, but it would also be helpful to search like Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and just see if there is another business out there using that name. It's also helpful to go to the United States Trademarking Office and also search and see if that name is trademarked, because think ahead. What if you do want to do that eventually in the future? Okay. So I kind of research a name multiple ways: social media, Google domains, and also the US Trademarking Office website. So as long as all of that's a go, I don't want to necessarily use a name that's very general or vague, or that's very common for businesses. Like, I don't even want to say one because it's probably going to be somebody's name. Just try to keep it as unique as possible. Okay. So business address. So this one is a hang up for a lot of people. Even people after they go to my boot camp and they get home and they start this process, they're like, I'm mobile. So many people start IV therapy mobile. I'm sure a lot of you will start IV therapy mobile, right? So what happens is people will get hung up on, I'm mobile. What do I do about my virtual address? So this is what I recommend. All right, you've nailed down your business plan. You've nailed down your target client. That's very important. Your mission, your vision. What area do you want to serve? If you're mobile, that may not necessarily be the area where your home or your house is located, okay? So, side note, don't use your home address. I would not use my home address for a medical business, okay? People can and will possibly try to show up to your home address. So I don't recommend that for this, okay? But yes, virtual address is totally feasible. Now, what I recommend you do is, if you can, nail it down to the side of town you want to be on. If you're closer to a bigger city, this is going to be a little easier. If you're further out or operating more in a small town, this could be a little more complicated, but it exists. Typically, you want to find a place that is physical, like look for executive suites, co-working spaces, but you want to find a place that has a physical location, okay? But they offer a virtual address. This is very important because when you register your business, when we talk about the marketing foundation and you're setting up your Google My Business page, you're going to show up on the Google Maps. You need for that to show a physical location. Now, everything in your business foundation from here all the way through everything we talk about every night is all about, one, of course, being compliant and having a solid foundation, but also building trust. From the time anyone finds you, encounters you, lands on your website, lands on your social media, the whole goal is not likes, comments, and shares, but building trust, okay? So your business address is part of that. It's part of that foundation. Now, how do you feel if you're looking for a service and you were to Google that business, or IV therapy near me, for example, and then what pops up? Well, you have a few, right? But one of them shows as an iPostal. you can't even be sure. Like, you're going to think, is that even a real business? But it may be another one that shows up at 410 Ware Boulevard. That's my business address in Florida, in Tampa. But at 410 Ware Boulevard is a building. It's a 12-story building that has multiple businesses in there. But initially, my business started there as a virtual address. Now I have a physical office there, but I started there with a virtual address. So definitely try to go for a physical location that offers the virtual address. Let me see if anybody has questions about that. Because I know sometimes if you've used your home address already, it is not difficult to change. Just change everything. So you can send your mail. And I have a physical location, by the way, y'all, and I still use a virtual address in that very same building. So yes, you can send your mail there. But if you're doing mobile IV therapy, you may not want to send your supplies there. So can you get your business? Is that you can call that your corporate, your public facing address, your Google facing address. You can now use iPostal or UPS store. You can definitely use them for shipping, okay? That's not the address you're going to put on Google or Maps or public facing. But when you're setting up your vendor accounts, then yes, you could still use our postal or UPS store. So that's what I did. I had an address in Tampa for my business, for mail, for Google Maps, what I used on my business listings, what I used on my IRS setup, what I used on my state business formation, or at least later I did, because initially I used my house too. But when it came to getting my supplies and my vitamins and all of that, my office or my virtual office was 20 something minutes away, but UPS store is down the street a couple of miles. So yes, I shipped my supplies to the UPS store and they will do that. But my virtual office, and you can also ship to a virtual address too, by the way. So a couple of people are saying, how the heck do you find a virtual address? And what is a good site? So honestly, Google. And just like you're going to go there and search, this is how you want to be found too, on Google. But I search virtual address. I would say they're more likely, vitamin vendors will possibly ship to those stores, but they're really more likely to ship to like a UPS. If they will not, if you have virtual, you can ship them there. It's just that mine was a little further from my house. So I like to be able to just shoot down the road and get them at the UPS store. But yeah, most of them will. And that's something to ask them. But virtual address, Google. And some people use like the common ones like Opus, Regis, but every city doesn't have those. You can find a co-working space, search co-working space in your area. You can search for Opus. That's in the comments. Someone just commented. You can search for Regis. Those are very common ones. And they do have physical locations in Tampa with virtual addresses. So those are options. If that's not in your area, look for a co-working space that rents out. Like I went to a grand opening and this lady had a co-working space and one of her services was virtual mailboxes. Look for executive suites in your area. A lot of those places where there are executive suites will also offer virtual mailboxes. So sometimes you have to get a little creative in your search. And I don't know, I guess that Google searching is like a little side talent of mine. So sometimes people will say, I couldn't find that. And then I'll just find it. I say I have magic Google fingers. But yes, you can search that way. And then it's a little time, but that's everything in business. I call a few, and it's important to me because I did this with a student one day. We did this together, but it's very important to me that they have a physical location that I can list and that it's in the area I want to serve, or at least very close, okay? Like a credible, good area, and then that, because there are some out there that they'll have a virtual address and then they somehow won't have the physical location may be in a whole other city. That's weird to me. And typically what those will say is like, oh, you can just forward your mail to you. No, I need it in my city. I needed to have a physical location. Okay. So call around, talk to them, show up to the building, go in and say, hey, do you like, this is just the beginning, right? But you may have to do a little footwork there. So virtual address. I did, in fact, set up my business with my home address. Don't do it. I had the Department of Health showing up to do my biomedical permit inspection. I know another nurse had used her home address back in the day, and like clients were showing up looking for a drip, and she was mobile. So I don't recommend using it if you have done that already. I do get this question commonly. It's a simple matter of going back to where your business is registered, get your virtual address, and then go back and update the site. Usually, I know in Florida, you can go to Sunbiz and you can update an address for free. Another time that you can update it, at most states, you have to do an annual update to your business. So that's another time that you can update that if you've done that. But it's not super hard to fix at all. So don't panic, because I had to fix it too, okay? No one really talked to me about this part. So I myself set it up that way. Brick and mortar. My postal is fine, maybe for receiving your supplies. It's just not like if you Google a business and you see iPostal, I do post-op care too. So again, credibility and building trust. If they Google and they see 410 Ware Boulevard, Tampa, then that looks, and it's an actual physical building that they can find. That's a little different from just Googling and they come out to an iPostal store and they're like, is this even real, or is this a scam? We already know so many scams out there. So it's trust, definitely. But if a supply vendor is okay with you having an iPostal and them shipping medical supplies there, sometimes the vitamin vendors can be a little picky. But like general medical supplies, yeah, you could get by with that. Let's see. Awesome. Does the DEA allow a virtual address on testosterone? Possibly not. Possibly not with controlled substances. I do, but I offer hormone replacement therapy, but I have even if it's just a room, in those kind of cases, I would recommend having a location. But I know that if you're doing TRT, like where you're shipping it to their house, that's the way I would do that. If you're shipping it to your office, that would be a little tricky. I would have an actual location versus a virtual address, because that's a controlled substance. But that's a very good point. Let's see. All right, so the virtual address is definitely a quite common hang up. But once you have your name, your domain, right, your business plan, you can go ahead to your state business formation website. In Florida, that's the Division of Sunbiz. That's what it's called, Sunbiz. But it's a place where you go, you put in your business name, your address, who's owners, you establish your business type. So LLC, PLLC, corporation. Now, which is best for you, because I'm not maybe I should have said at the beginning, none of this is legal or tax advice, because that is definitely out of my scope of practice. But yes, most people form LLCs. There are some states where you have to, or you have the option, it may vary, of forming a professional limited liability corporation if you have a professional license. Other states, like in Florida, we can as nurse practitioners, but we don't have to. So a lot of us are LLCs, okay? So yes, form your business on your state site. But do some people use places like LegalZoom? Is that what it's called? InkFile? There's a few out there that form and do this for you. Yes. And there's nothing wrong with that. Do some people use a CPA or an attorney to do this part? Yes, nothing wrong with that. Actually, that would be very preferred, especially when you're setting up your financial structure and just being sure of your legal structure of your business. So that's definitely recommended. But you form your business at the state level once you have the name, once you have an address, and once you form it at the state level. And it's simple. You can do it yourself. You can just type the information in, who the owners are. You can I could set up 10 businesses tonight. You can do it all night. Just pay the filing fee. It's super. That's the easy part. Okay. It's the operations that's different. And once you've done that, then you go to your business, your bank of choice, and you can go ahead and open a business checking and savings at minimum to start. You may want more accounts for your business, but checking and savings for sure at first. And then from there, your bank will typically want your business formation documents, usually known as articles of organization. And they may also ask for something called an operating agreement. So when you form your business, that's the articles of organization. But an operating agreement is something separate. Some business attorneys and some business formation websites will also give you the option of doing an operating agreement, but it's also something you can do yourself. I use a website called wonder.legal. Wonder.legal. They have a host of documents, but you can type in operating agreement on that website, fill in the information about your state, your business. It'll ask you all these questions, and in the end, it'll spit out a doc that you can also still edit. So some banks will require an operating agreement. It spells out who owns the businesses. This is where percentages, if say you have a partner, this is where percentages are spelled out. Say you're in a state that requires MSO, MSA setup. That's another story. But nonetheless, the operating agreement outlines the business, who owns it, percentages of ownership. So that is important to have. Remember, if you go form it on your state website, that does not mean that's just your organization or incorporation. You still also should have an operating agreement, okay? So sometimes that can kind of be left out of some courses, but the operating agreement is important. So that's formation at the state level, and then your business checking and savings. And then you have formation at the federal level, and that's easy. That is your EIN, employer identification number. You go to irs.gov or type in EIN, IRS. Be sure that you are on the IRS website, because on there it's free. And they want your business name, they want the address, and then they'll collect a little bit of information about you. And then from there, they'll spit out an EIN like within seconds. And once that happens, you print that letter and you save it. You scan it into your electronic storage. You guard it forever and ever, because that's like your business social security number. Okay. So now you have your EIN. So from there, you can do something called a W-9. There are some vendors who will ask for this. Say you form your business, say you do telehealth, and you want to contract yourself out. You can contract yourself out under your business, but the way you do this is something called a W-9. And with that said, it's your business name, your EIN, your business address. I've had random people ask for that, but if someone asks you for a W-9, it's basically like similar to what you fill out in an employed position, a W-4, except it's your business name, EIN. But a W-9 can also have your social and on it as well. But that's what it is. It's a tax form. You can fill this out, sign it, date it, and just keep a hard copy, and then upload a copy. So every now and then people are like, someone's asking me for a W-9. What the heck is that? That's what it is. And also, if you hire a collab, medical director, or eventually you hire contractors, let's say for your business, they will need to fill out a W-9, because at the end of the year, this is what you will use to send them their 1099. But let's not get into all that yet, okay? Let's just say that I want you to know what a W-9 is and be familiar, okay? Another foundation, of course, is your website. You could start this early. You could start this early, either having someone build it or you yourself building it, because, of course, this will take time. So that's why it's kind of at this beginning, because it's not something that you're really going to put together quickly. This may take a few, weeks to a month. But keeping it simple is always going to be better. I have a WordPress website, but yes, do people start with GoDaddy, Wix? Absolutely. Let's see. And someone's asking Glenda about MSO states. Are they collecting all income? Only on one service the physician covers. And so questions like this, it's a good question. But what you need to do if you're in an MSO state, and MSO means managed service organization, you're setting that up so that the physician can provide oversight to your business. So in a state like that, you could possibly only require the services that they're overseeing to run through that bank account, but that is always going to be attorney, because depending on so many things, that could be, you may have to set it up that way, or you may be okay with, you may have to put all services under the MSO, but it would make sense for it to be what they are overseeing, right? So I know that's confusing for a few people, but that is definitely, so questions like this, definitely going to read them. But anything that's very legal like that, that's always going to be, besides me being part of your foundational team, hopefully, but besides me, you are attorney and tax professional. Like, don't even think about coming into this. Now, could we at first? Yeah, but don't even think about it without an attorney, especially in an MSO state or states that have the stricter corporate practice of medicine laws, which we do have coming up. And a few more considerations as far as insurance. Don't forget your professional liability. Remember, professional liabilities covers your practice, but you do want to be sure that they are covering what you're doing. So a lot of professional liability insurers, I use CM as in Mary, C is in Cal, M is in Mary, and then F is in Frank. That's the company I use. I've been with them from the beginning. But a lot of them consider IV therapy aesthetics. So that will change the rating and the pricing on your policy. It will make it higher, but especially in this day and time, right? But with that said, yes, call a few. There's NSO, there's Pro Liability. There's a few different ones, and you could get all different quotes. And depending on where you are, your licensure, of course, APRNs, ours is higher. Mine is a few thousand a year versus RNs. I hear 400, 600, maybe 1,000 for the year. Okay. But you do need to be sure that your insurance covers what you offer. And keeping in mind too, that yes, you can in fact add your collaborative physician, AKA medical director, to your insurance and an admin role. That does not substantially increase the cost. Also keep in mind, if you have a location, general liability covers like slip and falls, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. If you have a location, but you have equipment, machines, furniture, then you need to also have business insurance on your location. Okay. Like think what would cover if the building burned down or there was a flood or the sprinklers had to come on. Okay. That's business. So that's not professional liability. Okay. Also mobile. If you want to wrap your car, keep in mind that you don't want to wrap a car and drive around and possibly hit someone. That happened recently in my business with another person hitting one of my nurses. But, you know, having automobile insurance for business use of your car, and definitely don't use decals or wrap your car and then not have automobile insurance. Okay. A couple of hacks on professional liability insurance. Remember, when you're getting your quotes, one, you're part-time, you're starting a business, you're not working there full-time, so you can select part-time coverage. Two, remember again that you need to select, make sure that it's covering you for IV therapy. And three, be aware of what is required for your state. So for example, my policy for the last few years was $1 million per occurrence and 6 million aggregate. That was the coverage, 1,600,000. Most of the time, they're going to give you a quote based on that. Every state does not require that much. Okay. I knew that Florida only required 250. I forget the aggregate, but 250 minimum per occurrence. And then I think aggregate maybe like 600,000, right? When I renewed my policy this year, I was like, why have I been carrying all this extra insurance? Because I don't want to, like, you don't need to carry all that. Okay. I don't want to invite anything in. And I changed it. And my policy, usually it goes up every year and it went down. So just keep that in mind. Be aware. And you can find that, like, I had to look for Florida nurse or nurse practitioner or Florida professional liability insurance limits requirement, but that's how I found it. And sometimes you can find it on your board of nursing site, but just be sure that, you know, you can go for the 1,600,000. That's probably going to cover you, but Florida just doesn't require that much. And changing that really substantially changed my premium. Let's see. Yeah, I knew somebody say, where do you find that? Okay, let's see. So Glenda says she was able to use a broker that partners with CM&F, and it came out $600 a year cheaper. Wow. Yeah, Glenda, like if you have your broker, I don't know, you can feel free to even, you know, if you can share it, either DM people on there or email me, info@conciergenurselife.com. But that's awesome. That's really nice. But that does make a difference in your policy, is those legal limits. Okay. And then a few more things. So accounting software, you know, you have your bank account. You are going to want to track your business expenses. So having QuickBooks, not one is not recommended over the other. Most of the time, it will be helpful to work with a tax professional on just getting it set up and being sure that your expenses are getting categorized correctly. But this is important because at the end of the day, at the end of the year, which is the end of the day, It makes everything easier, okay? Now, at first, it ain't no big deal. You're like, oh, I had an expense here, I had an expense there, but get into some substantial income and substantial swiping that card, you want your books to be clean. I've definitely had to go back and recategorize and change things. So I'm speaking from experience. Having nice, clean books makes tax time so much easier. Having that bank account, having the debit card or credit card for business, and then having your accounting software all linked together because they can, will make your life so much easier, okay? And then just keep in mind that even after you form your business at the state and federal level, that some places will have certain permits and requirements there, okay? So, and that's going to be a local thing. It may vary by city. And then if you, in some states, medical services are taxed. There's only 5, but there are a few. I don't know them off the top of my head, but most states, and this is, again, where a tax professional is helpful, most states, medical services are not taxed, okay? Like Florida, they're not. I can tell you that. Tennessee, they're not, because I'm a Tennessean too. And as I said, foundational team. So besides me, you also need to, again, CPA, having your accounting software, having an attorney. Some attorneys will want to draft forms of consents for you. It is possible, like me, when my full boot camp includes some templates that are a good starting point, and then they can always be added on or edited for your state. So some attorneys are okay with that. I say, now people will say I can get Legal Shield or I can just find a random attorney. You can, but I do recommend at some point, and usually early on, having an attorney that really you can work with over the course of your business and as your business grows, because eventually you're hiring a team. Like having that attorney and tax professional from the beginning will make it easier as your business grows as well, okay? And then this is important in some states, the pharmacist. So most of us initially, we don't need a pharmacist, okay? But you could possibly need a pharmacist at some point later or some states, because some states are saying a nurse practitioner, PA, cannot mix into an IV bag, okay? That's very rare, by the way, but South Carolina and Louisiana. And so this is where you have to be creative and either have a pharmacist that you may employ to come mix the bags, which is an additional expense. So remember, I said, when you're looking at pricing in those states, all the IV drips are going to be higher, not just yours, because you have to account for that kind of overhead unless a pharmacist or physician is running that clinic, right? But nonetheless, that is a rare scenario, all right? But having a pharmacist on staff for those situations, definitely. But otherwise, any pharmacy that you set up an account with will have a pharmacist that is accessible to you. Florida, we don't need a pharmacist. No. Like I use Olympia Pharmacy, and if I use mostly all their tools, their kits, everything, their ingredients. I mostly stick with one pharmacy. So with that said, no, not in Florida. When I say you need a pharmacist, there's a couple of states that have said or taken the position that nurses and or nurse practitioners should not be mixing anything into an IV bag. So those states are kind of where that's what has a lot of people in a frenzy and freaking out and thinking like, forget it, IV therapy, it just ain't even possible anymore. And that's not true. Another thing that kind of has people like that is definitely the USP 797 regulations. And if you're new here, the Concierge Nurse Network, there is a YouTube channel, okay? You can go there. Don't forget to subscribe. But there is a few videos, but one of them is USP 797 updates. I will be having a part 2 to that as well, but go watch that. That will be helpful. Again, these kind of things I want to be out there and available even before you ever set foot in boot camp. Another video that's really good on the YouTube that I have is the 10 hard truths of starting an IV therapy business. Some of you may have sat through that webinar. Well, that one's on YouTube as well. So yeah, definitely a good thing to go and watch. All right, so operations foundation. People need to be able to find you. People need to be able to schedule with you, your website, and they need to be able to pay you. So your operations foundation is going to be, well, you need to order your vitamins. You need to order your supplies. So your medical supply vendors, your vitamin vendors, payment processor. I use Square, your scheduling app. I use Acuity, but there's so many out there. There's so many, okay, for IV therapy. Then there are companies that even have a lot of this already built in and you just kind of pay a monthly fee. I'm a little mixed on that just because in exchange for that, you lose some ownership and some autonomy of your business. So I'm not a huge fan, but there are options out there and they do solve a problem. And hey, that's what business is meant to do, right? So that could be right for some people. Of course, your protocols, your SOPs, okay, your emergency protocols, your standing orders that you will get or outline with your collab or medical director. How will you document these visits? You can do paper, you can do electronic forms. Of course, you can use a full EMR. I talked about your bookkeeping system and then also your phone system. And believe me, once you get on that Google map, the phone can start ringing. Nothing freaked me out more when I first started my business than that phone ringing. I don't know what it was, but I would freak out. I'm like, oh my God. It was the worst feeling. Like, what if they have a question I can't answer? Oh my God, oh my God. And I also still worked a full-time job, but have your phone system and answer it because 9 times out of 10 these days when my phone rings, it's money, someone interested in a service, or someone wanting to come in right now for an IV drip on the other side of that line. Okay. Let's see. There's a question about that. Yeah, it freaks you out. I mean, no one ever talks about this part. Okay, so will I be talking about receiving payment? Do you receive payments prior? Do you bill after? So what you can do all of that. You can keep a credit card on file. But what I do is I have an intake. And when they go to schedule my appointment on my scheduling system, which is Acuity, they fill out an intake, right? And then I also have a consent right there within Acuity because I want it mostly automated. And then from there, once they've done that, there's an option to either pay their appointment in full, but they absolutely definitely have to pay a deposit. And I have my deposit set at, I want to say half. I used to have it at 25%. I had one point where I had no deposit required. And then I decided one day after a couple of getting stood up, I have a deposit and they pay that. And the way Acuity works is it will keep the card on file if they pay through Square, because Acuity integrates with Square. It also integrates with PayPal. Okay, so it saves it if they pay with Square, and when they come into the clinic, I can go to their appointment and right there, like on my iPad or even on my cell phone, and I'll say, hey, when it's time to pay, do you want to use the card that you used? It's still here on file, and I'll pay the rest of their balance. I just click pay. That's one option. I also have a Square actual reader, so hardware. I actually have that as well. So that's another option. You can load in your appointment types and check them out, but definitely a deposit to even book. I just got sick and tired of the no-shows. Even some of my clients, once they're in a package with me and they start pulling this no-show stuff, and it's been bad lately, I have now deduct one of their sessions. Like if they no show, or they're more than 15 minutes late, they don't get that session back. So you definitely need to outline a policy for no shows or no shows and late appointments. Like, how long will you hold that appointment? And it's good also think about the fact that every now and then with IV therapy, it could be an absolute disaster in that you can't get a vein. And this is why I'm okay with them just paying a deposit, because then I'll say, hey, would you like this instead? Or I'll give them an injection instead. And I'll sometimes refund it if that's what they want, or I'll give them something in the place of it, or we'll keep it as a credit and just have them come back another day. So that's going to depend. That's rare, but yeah, it could happen. But that does not stop me from requiring a deposit. Like, no, I still require one. I used to be a little weird about it because I'm like, well, what if I can't get it? What if, right? So let's see. Does Square keep track of the deposits? Yes. Yeah, definitely. And I use Acuity. So like I said, I can log right into Acuity and cash them out. If they use PayPal, I can't. It just goes through PayPal. And PayPal links to my business account. Square links to my business account. Everything links together. Bookkeeping system links to my business account. So everything is all communicating with each other. But yes, you can even put your settings to require. Some people use Square. So Square has different. Square has Square Up, which is the payment processor. They have Square Space, which you can use to create a website, by the way. But you can definitely put the settings in your appointment to require that it keeps that credit card on file. Some people use something called Intake Queue, and they may integrate that with something called Stripe. So there's different ones out there. They're all similar as far as like percentages and how much they charge you, the cost of doing business. that part is similar, so I wouldn't get too caught up in that. But yes, and again, I've used Square from the beginning, but there's not really one I recommend over the other. It's just that I've used Square from the beginning. Let's see. What system do I use to chart? So I use a combination of a SOAP note in my Acuity system. It lets you do a simple SOAP note and a paper flow sheet. So a little bit of both. For me, let's see. I'm going back up since I'm on a pause for questions. Operating agreement. How much can we expect to pay for a virtual address? Anywhere from about that $49 a month to $99 a month. Every now and then, there are a few places I found around here, it could go a little over $100 a month, but that's typically somewhere in that $49 to maybe $149 would be a good range. We can change address on annual report for LLC. Yes, you sure can. Let's see. And yes, Samantha said, remind people to check the trademark on the business name before they move forward. Yes. So what she's talking about is, remember I mentioned that US trademarking website. You can Google it and you'll see. But yes, I went there. Everything that I do before I name it even or start using the name, I actually go there and check. So that's a definitely good advice. Okay, what do you suggest we use for an address? Everything is set up under my personal. I was told using a PO box didn't look professional, or people might question credibility. My answer would be the virtual, but with a place that has a physical location for sure. Let's see. Okay, now I'm going back to this question. Okay, this is one. Okay, so Samantha says, I'm so busy in creating systems and structures for my business. I have no eye on what's coming in legislation rules. What is the easiest way to keep abreast of this? I'm not finding the nursing board to be very user-friendly. True. Any better sites to sign up for? So this is where like professional, like me, I try to keep an eye on this, but I'm not an attorney, right? So other organizations like AmSpa out there, that's a good one, especially because they're so into med spa. So that's a good one. An attorney. So when you're looking for an attorney, and I'll talk about legal foundation is tomorrow night, I believe. Yeah, but your attorney needs to be as niche as you are. They need to understand med spa, IV therapy, home care, healthcare business. Okay. So that would be one place. And then they should be keeping up. And then otherwise, your board of nursing is not going to be helpful. Your board of pharmacy, again, a lot of this wasn't written for what we do. So having the legal structure in place, working with the attorney, I say this, even if it was something happened and an attorney was like, I had no idea about that. You had an attorney. And if they were like, I couldn't find that info, even some people, this is very smart, by the way, they don't write the board of nursing, or they don't reach out to the board of pharmacy. They have their attorney do that research. They have their attorney reach out. They have their attorney get this information in writing. So that's a very smart, because it actually almost takes the potential heat off of you. If they see you reaching out, they could open a can of worms. So like, let's go sniffing around. So that's very smart. This is, again, an advantage of having an attorney. They can reach out and keep abreast and do this research too. Like, that's part of what you're paying them for. Let's see. Has Michigan made any changes? Not that I'm aware of. I do believe, now I have Kelsey in Michigan, and she's opening locations everywhere. So, and she's really good about having that, she has the attorney and all that. So no, nothing so far. I've worked really closely with her on being sure about her USP 797 compliance. And that's, applies to all states. It's just that some states go a little further with those. But no, as far as like whether it's in our scope of practice and we can mix the bags and all that, so far, nothing has changed that I've heard in Michigan. Does Square allow you to separate accounts for two businesses in one? Yeah. But you probably got to make another Square account, because I have that going too. So you just would need a separate one with another email, but you could definitely have a primary care Square and a med spa Square. And you probably in that case also need two different readers, and make sure you're doing the right one. But I think that doing that would definitely require two accounts. Does Acuity and Square? Yes. That's a very good question. Yes, Acuity and Square does allow. So Square is what allows you to take FSA and HSA. So when you're setting up your Square account, be sure that you are setting up as a clinic, because yes, that will allow you to take HSA. And the same goes for Stripe. PayPal will not allow this. For Stripe, Clover, but if you use a merchant system from your bank, some people do that, but be sure to set up as a clinic, or ask them, how do I be sure that I'm set up as a clinic? Because yes, you can. I can accept FSA and HSA through my Square, and people are so grateful for that. Let's see. Opus is very good for virtual. They have a live attendant to answer the phone. That's another thing. That's very helpful when you first start and you kind of can't answer the phone always. They also have a refrigerator for meds that need to be stored. Wow, I didn't even know this. That's nice information. Thank you, Karen. And it's not, using your home address is not professional when it comes to business credit. Yes. So even though I'm not going to get into business credit, because that's a whole possibly 3-night webinar in itself. But remember, I said credibility and trust. So that also does factor into business credit. So I'm saying these things definitely for a reason. So yes, very good point about business credit. So Lena says, so you stick with just adding 2 ingredients to 1 bag. Products from Olympia mainly. I do. So this is under the USP 797 rim. But what I have also learned from a pharmacist recently, and I don't want to confuse y'all, but we can actually add 3. I need to do an update on my USP 797 webinar, but we can add 3. So the 3 ingredients is the saline and 3. Now, I've always been told it's the saline and 2. I still do the saline and 2, okay? But recently I was advised that no, you can do the saline and 3 and still fall under immediate use, okay? So Rita is saying, I'm confused regarding the hood. Go watch my USP 797 webinar on my YouTube, because I don't want to get, off track with what we're doing tonight. But yes, I was recently updated from a credible pharmacist in the USP 797 world that we could add 3, and the saline does not count as 1. I was always taught and always told that the saline or base solution counted as 1. So 3 is amazing. Amazing. Now, back to the hood situation. There is something called immediate use, okay? You can still be mobile. You can still mix your bags or compound, whatever we want to call it, outside of a hood, as long as you follow immediate use rules. So immediate use rules, again, watch that USP 797 webinar on the Concierge Nurse Network YouTube channel, okay? So a hood is just something you have to mix in it's called a laminar flow hood. So that's what we're talking about. And a laminar flow hood is sometimes required if you're going to not use that drip within 4 hours, if you're mixing more than 3 ingredients, okay? So I'll talk a bit about that. The only thing that I would say I need to update as far as that video is I said 2 ingredients and the saline, and now I've been advised it's 3 ingredients and the saline. So that's the only difference. But I talk about immediate use and when you do not need a hood. Now, there's always a caveat. Okay, so in some states, no matter what, and Jennifer is the pharmacist. Yes, Jennifer is the credible pharmacist Suzanne just mentioned. And she said, she talked to Jennifer and she said that you can add 3 and the solution. So, and it falls under immediate use. That's the key. Whether you're needing to use a laminar flow hood or you fall under immediate use, it depends on how much you're mixing. If you're mixing 8 ingredients, you need a laminar flow hood, okay? If you're mixing more than 3, you need a laminar flow hood. I teach you, now this is inside of my IV therapy camp, how to take Olympia formulas and take 1 kit and create tons of recipes and get started, okay? And then Natasha says she's found a pharmacist to mix bags for her, as long as she has them. And that may be something. And this is what I tell people, don't freak out, because if there's a need in your state to have pre-mixed bags, believe me, someone is going to rise to the occasion and solve that problem. So guess what? You still will be able to operate. Don't freak out because you could be in South Carolina or Louisiana and they say, nope, you can't mix into the bag. Somebody in that state is going to create a solution to this problem. Or you do have the option of having a pharmacist come in and mix your bags and you pay them. Like, it's possible, y'all. It's still possible. So where do I store the IV? So you don't store when you're doing immediate use. You are using, well, of course you could store it, like, if you're mobile. Immediate use, I don't even mix my bag until I'm using it. Okay, so immediate use, I get the vein, I hook the fluids up, and then I mix the bag right there on the spot. And I'm using it. It's flowing. Okay. So let's see. Rosalind says she went to a pharmacist and she had a great slide that described immediate use. Definitely feel free to email me at, I'm going to type my email in here, info@concierge. And it may be similar to what I have, but I still would love to see it in my YouTube video. But yes, immediate use, y'all, it is so simple and to the point. Just know that there are some states where they don't recognize immediate use, but I haven't so far heard of a state like that. I know there's at least one or two, but and some people will say, well, I have no clue how to do this because my board of pharmacy doesn't say anything. All the better. USP 797 it is then. If they don't say anything, that's awesome, because now you got USP 797 to guide you. You don't have additional issues to deal with, okay? So that's even better. So don't look. I just want y'all to stay calm and stay with me for these 3 nights, because again, this is still doable. And before we go, one, keep typing your questions. But while you're doing that, and before we wrap, because I'm going to try to keep this to like no later than 9 p.m. EST every night. But yes, I do help nurses start IV therapy businesses, as you can tell. And so I have virtual IV therapy boot camps coming up. One this Saturday, full course. And then one on 11/11 of this year. Okay, next month. All right, so that's virtual. This is completely virtual. It's the full boot camp plus the full IV therapy essentials toolkit. So anybody who takes my class, you have access to a toolkit that has SOPs, intakes, consents, all different resources for your business, okay? Up until now, that toolkit has always only been part of class. That toolkit is also available if you don't need a class, but you would love the resources. That is an option, okay? And I'll tell you how to find it. But that's virtual. My live event, that's the one I'm famous for, Post-Op Recovery Bootcamp. It's one part IV therapy on day 2, but day 1 is post-op. Day 2 is IV therapy. That's a combo. You can do one or both. Now, what it is now, Post-Op Recovery Bootcamp is virtual, but you can attend live on IV Therapy Day. So I have a drip lounge, I have a clinic in Tampa, and I have like a 7-chair drip lounge. So when I say the option for live, you don't pay any different. On day 2, you can come in person. All I'm going to do is a few weeks out from the event, I'll have everyone who wants to fly in, just let me know. Okay. So that's what it is. So the next 2 IV therapy boot camps are virtual only, but next year we'll have full post-op recovery boot camp weekend, which is both post-op and IV. You can do one day or the other, and you can fly in on a day 2 with no additional expense. Like, come hang out with me, come be in my drip lounge and get some hands-on, see my supplies, do a tour, etc., etc. I also do post-op and IV therapy private VIP one-on-one days, okay? So that's another option that's not here. I do mentoring. So some people want very personalized strategy for their business. That's an option. But 2 ways to reach: one, to learn about the boot camps and read a little more about them and me. All lowercase, okay? You go to bit.ly/bootcampnurse, okay? All lowercase though, because if you try to type in uppercase, it'll mess up. And that is just my website. My website is adaptivewellness.com. So you can also go, like, I'm going to type my website in here. You can also go to adaptivewellness.com and click on training and boot camps. Rita says, I would like mentoring and one-on-one. If you're in Tampa, that's half the battle. Yes, you can come hang out with me. So I have a package that you can do for the mentoring and one-on-one, or you can do a straight up IVIP day, which is a 4-hour day, or you could do both. You could do an IVIP day, and then you can also spread out and do some mentoring calls too. So one or the other, or both. Yeah, Nikki, come see me. She said, I'll come hang out. I know it's worth it. Oh my gosh, come back and see me, right? Let's see. And yeah, definitely work with a lot of nurses in Florida. Of course, I definitely can. I know more legal on Florida, but I still, of course, recommend an attorney. But I know I'm way more comfortable with Florida legals. And yes, on adaptivewellness.com, if you go to it, that's my main site for my business. But on that website, there's also a section that says training boot camps. That's where you can kind of scroll through, read more about the boot camps, the courses, and the toolkits. And guess what? No webinar is ever complete without a special deal. So one, if you to arrange VIP days, email me. I'll send you a link where we set up an intro call, and then we talk about what you're looking for, what your goals are, and then I tell you how to register those. Okay, so that's an email. So as y'all can see, I always like to talk to you. I learn more from you and what you need, and to be sure that I can, help you. Okay, but two, if you are ready to start, and you will have a great foundation after these 3 nights for sure. But if from there you're like, I'm ready to roll, it's Q4 of this year, and you would like to be launched in the first or second quarter of next year, then I definitely would invite you to IV Therapy Bootcamp Virtual. It is the same information and the same essentials toolkit that you have forever access to, by the way. So IV Therapy Bootcamp is $745. So we're going to start with tonight. Tonight only. It is on my website. When you click through my website and follow the links, it's $545. So tonight is $200 off. Every night that amount is going to decrease, okay? But tonight is $200 off. So yes, bit.ly/bootcampnurse, all lowercase, or adaptivewellness.com. Remember, adaptive doesn't have an E. So either or will take you to, and you can click on, if you go to Adaptive Wellness, just go follow training bootcamps. If you go to bit.ly/bootcampnurse, it's going to take you to that section on my site. Nonetheless, I've already loaded the pricing in there. So it'll be there probably until we start tomorrow night. So tomorrow night before the second night, the price is going to change. And then the third night is going to change again. So every night is going to go up. So tonight is the cheapest. And so for $495, let me just tell y'all really quick and I'm going to go to that part of my website too. Let me tell y'all. So IV Therapy Bootcamp, right? So y'all can see training bootcamp. So right here, training bootcamps. And it's just on there. All right. So IV Therapy Bootcamp, all this description is here, what's included. But one of the most magical things about my IV Therapy Bootcamp is definitely this. So everybody who attends this course has forever lifetime access to this. So go through and look at what's in this essential digital toolkit, because it's worth the price of the class, especially at $495. That's not the regular, $545, I'm sorry. Not the regular price by any means. So consents, SOP, I won't bore you, but let's scroll down. Good faith exam protocol. We know those are important. Collaborative physician bundle, interview questions, a contract for your collab. A lot of these are available separately, but this is what you get for the course, okay? Research and literature. And then I have videos in there where I talk about mixing, USP 797 compliance, the iron infusion protocol. Some of you have that or you purchased that, but that's in the full toolkit, and always lifetime access. Now, let me tell you this right here that says coming soon. This is very important. USP 797. So USP 797, remember, watch the video. I'm not going to go all into it, but one of the new aspects of it is that even if you're doing immediate use, you still need to have protocols relating to aseptic technique, relating to hand hygiene, relating to mixing. So you need to have those protocols, and you also need to log and document your training or in your staff training. So that is what I'm adding to the toolkit, okay? Anyone who's previously taken bootcamp, they will get this automatically. So anytime I update it, you get it. I've added the iron infusion protocol. People who took my class back in November of 2021 have access to that, okay? So that is coming shortly. And that, honestly, that is the reason a lot of this part I'm taking out, because we have to spend more time on more regulations and mixing and formulas and operational type things. So again, I want you to show up to boot camp and already have what I'm doing the next 3 nights or the next 2 nights after this. Veronica said, yeah, the toolkit is now available, never before, but the toolkit is now available separately. Emily, you're still working on digital? Awesome. That also will be getting updated. Now, when you took the digital on-demand version of the course, that's also an option, but the on-demand version of the course, remember, you do have this toolkit already included, and definitely if you haven't looked at it, go back to it. I updated it like crazy. So keep in mind that you do have access already. Let's see. High dose vitamin C protocol. So someone's asking about high dose C. You know where you can get a high dose C? High dose C, you can get it on Innovation. I like to order my high dose C. I actually do higher dose. I don't do complete high dose, but I order it from Innovation based in Georgia. They have an entire protocol. Once you set up an account with them, they have an entire protocol in their portal. So that's where I would say to get the high dose C, their whole kit, protocol, everything. You can get it from Innovation in Georgia. Oh, and just the toolkit is $195 without the course. And when you go to my website, so I added it because like I said, usually, and I was so stubborn about this, but I would not make it available for years without the course. But right here, I added it just before this call. So when you click this, it will take you to all the bootcamp options, but it'll take you to this checkout. So if you purchase this toolkit only, okay, and you check out, it's going to send me a notification. What happens then is I add you to have the access to it. So if you do that and I'm awake and I see it, I do it immediate. Now, let's say you do this at 3 a.m. Just bear with me because it will take time. I'll see your order. It's almost like I have to ship it. So the shipping will be me adding you to that, okay, or giving you access. So just allow me about 12 hours or even about 8 because I do it pretty immediate. Even if I'm awake, when I wake up, I do it, or either if I'm not awake, I should say, I wake up and do it. So when you order it, it's going to be like it's going to get shipped. But what's going to happen is I'll see the order and then I'll add you with the email you use to purchase it, okay? Now, the other options on here are definitely the virtual boot camps. Again, one is this weekend and one is on 11/11, okay? But both of these are completely virtual. And someone just asked me the magic question that I get a lot. Will I have a discount code for the IV? Yes, if you buy just the IV therapy toolkit, you have forever access, and you always, whatever I add to it, like those USP 797 logs and protocols that I'm adding, yes, you will have it. It's not there yet, but that will be added. Where do you go on my site for the forms? Which forms? Let me know which forms you're talking about, Veronica. Okay, post-op recovery bootcamp. Is there a discount? Well, sure. Do you want both days? Because I might just create something. Who wants it? I might just create one. Let's see. $200 off. Okay, so 2 days of post-op recovery boot camp. And by the way, y'all, post-op recovery boot camp now, the new one, like the one coming in 2024, the full weekend with the option to come in person, automatically includes mentoring now. I have learned that people can come take this course, but it's helpful to also have some follow-up. So the 2024 2-day bootcamp automatically includes like 4 mentoring calls, by the way. Okay, so I'm going to create a code for that one and y'all will get it. Let's see. I hope y'all check emails because I'll be sending updates, but I'm going to create a code. And that one you can use this code and actually I think I'm going to create $250 off will be the code, $250 off. So it's $250 off of the 2-day event. But what I'm going to do is add that. You just pay a deposit and use that code and that secures your seat at that price, okay? So that's what I'm going to do with that one. So the hardest part for me is getting the office logistics going. Getting your systems in place and all of that is definitely, it takes time. It takes a lot of research. You have to sit down and figure out like which system you want to use. How do you want to document? How, like you have to figure out your workflows and your protocols, you know? If you have a collab, like how are they going to review your charts? How are they going to have access? What, you know, how much insight and are they going to have as far as your business? Of course, they have oversight, but some do try to cross the line and have insight, or they want a percentage, and we'll talk about that. But that's a no. I don't recommend that going that route. Let's see, any hands-on IV insertion training. So if you come in February, I recommend me. If you want a VIP day, I recommend me. But I do that on the VIP day. So a VIP day can be post-op or IV, and it's whatever you want it to be. It can be hands-on training. I always make sure, like, some people come in like, I don't need to touch a drip, I'm good on that, and we do more business strategy. But if you want to do like hands-on and you do a few sticks and do a few drips, like I can set it up that way. I just need to know. So you could do that. Will I offer a done for you? I don't offer that yet. Would somebody it depends on the state. Like I would feel comfortable with a done for you in Florida, but other states, like a corporate practice and medicine state, again, tomorrow is legal. I think tomorrow's legal. That I wouldn't feel comfortable with. But it's definitely something I'm leaning on. And yes, you can do VIP post-op days with me too. Someone said I would love hands-on post-op. You can do that. Email me at that let me go back to that, info at Concierge Nurse Life, because then I'll send you the link to do a call with me and we can talk about that. But yes, you go with me to a post-op. We pick that client up and we do the entire post-op settle in. So just like tomorrow is legal. So yes, I have that right. So there's my contact. So did I answer all the questions? I told you I was going to answer these questions. Like, you can ask me anything. So Emmanuel, to the question about bootcamp discount code, it'll be $250 off. And this is where you would use that code. Let me show y'all before you go. You will go to my website. Okay, wait. adaptivewellness.com or bit.ly/bootcamp nurse, right? So you'll go to my website and you will go to training bootcamps. Now, to use that particular discount code to be able to use that code, okay, you need to go to the deposit option, because this way is the pay in full and that discount code won't work. But do the deposit option and it'll take you here, and there will be an option to sign up for let's scroll down to the 2-day IV therapy. Okay, 2-day was here. So there it is. Sign up for the 2-day event and you will type in your code. It'll ask for it somewhere on here. Where does it ask for it? I think it's on the next page. But nonetheless, you have to use the deposit option to use this code. So you would pay a deposit, and this would change because you would have $250 off of the 2-day event. Okay. So that's the code. And I will write that down. But yes, you have to go to my site and go to the deposit option. Okay. So, and I have to actually log in here and like activate that code. So just keep that in mind. But yes, I will activate it till tomorrow when we resume again. Okay. Is the 2-day event the same as virtual? Yes, because the 2-day event is still post-op on day 1, IV therapy on day 2. So it's just available for one price versus like you pay for each day. So that's one thing about the 2-day event. It's the same IV therapy digital toolkit. The essentials is still included. The only difference is that on day 2, which is post IV therapy day, you have the option now of coming into my clinic, and it doesn't change the price. Okay. That's important to know. $250 off will be the code that I'm going to put for the 2-day post-op recovery bootcamp in February. I'm going to load it into that system. Remember, go to my site and use deposit only option. So what you'll do is put that code, pay your deposit, and that will hold your seat. So when it's time, usually about 2 weeks out is when you pay the balance. Okay. So when it's time to pay the balance, like that discount will already be applied, but you can lock in and pay the deposit and get that $250 off and be secure at that rate. All right, let's see. What was the answer to the lymphatic drainage? Oh, I missed that question. I'm sorry, Tiffany. Okay, so what was the question about that? Is it in your scope? Was that the question? I get that one a lot. I do lymphatic drainage, by the way. So $250 off. Let me write that in here. To everyone. So the 2-day boot camp code is going to be $250 off. All right. So was that the question? Yes, nurses, RNs, it is in your scope to do lymphatic drainage. Keep in mind that doesn't equal massage. So you have to be careful about lymphatic massage. We're not doing massage because even though nurses were the first massage therapists, we can't use that term because that's licensed. Okay. The IV therapy toolkit is already marked down. That one's going to actually go up, but yeah, it's already marked down to $195. So you don't need a code for that one. And that one. So was that the question, Tiffany? Or what was the other question? Or was the other question where to train at? Because I get that one a lot too. But I completely missed that question. My apologies. Training boot camps. So if you go to my website and you like to do the IV therapy boot camp and use Afterpay or pay in full, you would go here. Okay. To pay a deposit for the upcoming February event, you would go here. All right. I know that's a little weird. And then down here for just the toolkit, you can click here, but it's going to take you to that same page. And yes, you can use, I set it up over here because it allows you like to divide the payments up on Afterpay. So that's another advantage of Square, y'all. It links with Afterpay. Just a hint. You can take HSA, FSA, and you can also use Afterpay. So I have some of my things set up, like this weekend's bootcamp and this toolkit where you can use Afterpay. Let's see. Yes, that was it. Okay, perfect. Yeah, I did my training for lymphatic at Academy of Lymphatic Studies. Now, remember at the beginning, I mentioned like, it's great to start with IV therapy, but you will likely want to add other services. So that's one of mine. Lymphatic drainage is something I offer in my clinic. Red light therapy is in my clinic. The IV drips, I do so many post-op lymphatic drainage sessions, and I'm also dripping them. So I like to layer and stack services to make them more profitable. For the people that took the 2-day boot camp, was there a discounted price for mentoring? No, y'all can add mentoring, but I didn't include it. So y'all, I think the 2 days y'all's was $9.95. The new price is like with the mentoring is like $14.95. So it's higher. So no, there wasn't, I think I offered mentoring after. No, I didn't. That one didn't include the mentoring because your price was different. Let's see. So I just caught that question. What was, okay, $250, y'all. Let's see. Somebody said, thanks because these multiple trainings add up. Let me tell y'all how much I spend in training. I feel you. First of all, like between like a mentor, taking a class with somebody like me, right? And then having an attorney and a tax professional. I get it, like for sure. I totally get it. I did lymphatic. I added on lymphatic drainage. And a lot of us, like, depending on if we're going aesthetics or other services, that's more training. Keeping in mind, though, that some of these, a lot of the times they're nice tax write-off, as long as you're not writing off too much. The CV drip. That is a webinar that's still coming up. CV drips are easy. I'm doing a webinar with the people that make that, by the way. Somebody said, woo, yes, and some I didn't learn anything. Half of what I do is because I ran across a couple of not so great mentors. And I know I'm not the perfect mentor by any means, but I definitely know what I dealt with and some of the frustrations of some of my mentors, unfortunately. And I'm one of them people, I'm not going to embrace the negative. I'm still going to take what I need and leave the rest, or what they say, take the meat and leave the bones. So everyone's not gonna, like, I love mentoring nurses, and I definitely have great success stories. But I always also say, like, someone could have taken my class and still kind of felt like nothing's perfect. But I say, let me know if that's the case, because if you're stuck, I always tell my people, like, reach out to me because I don't want you to be stuck. So I think that what sets me apart for sure is me being there. Like, you don't take my class and then I'm just gone. Y'all know that, those of you who have, like, I'm still here. You're stuck with me, and you still also see me doing things like this and offering other things. So, I'm accessible. Academy of Lymphatic Studies. Yes. ACALS. That's the one that I took. All right. So I'm going to